Shan Leatherman versus Rusty Whitwire. Attorney Schaefer for plaintiff and Attorney Smith for defendant.
Good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Court will note that this is a continuation of the evidentiary hearing commenced on August 21, 2023. And we're continuing on today's date. Mr. Smith, when we left, the proofs were with you at that time. Do you want to call your next witness?
I think we had rested, Your Honor.
Oh, you had? Okay, I didn't have it in my notes that you had rested.
That's consistent with my notes, Your Honor, that they had rested.
Okay, that's fine. I'll just add that to the notes then. So then proofs are with you, Mr. Schaefer.
Okay, thank you. I would call Shan Leatherman to the stand at this point.
Okay. It's a little bit faint, so you'll have to speak up, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
Ms. Leatherman, you are the petitioner asking for a PPO against Rusty Whitwire, is that correct?
Yes,
And you filed a petition alleging a number of events. Generally, what is Mr. Whitwire doing that you think warrants a personal protection order?
he is driving towards me. He yells at me. He calls me names. I feel like he's stalking me because he's always looking at stuff, calling people, you name it. He's done it to me.
Okay, and Mr. Whitwire is your brother, is that correct?
Yes,
And there has been bad blood between you and your brother for some period of time?
yes.
Okay. All right, let's go down through the various allegations. And let's start, since the judge ruled before that he was not going to rule on the easement quarrels, let's start on July 20th, 2023. Can you tell me what happened on that particular day when you were taking a walk with your dog?
So I was taking a walk with my dog. I walked to the end of our road and I go south because it goes north to work. And so I go south, I go down about a block and walk up Cotton Lake Road. As I was walking my way to Cotton Lake Road, I see he came out, but I just kept walking. He ended up turning my way, driving by me, slamming on his gas. He has a diesel, turning around, coming back. By then I had gotten on Cotton Lake Road, kept walking, turned around again, came back, stopped at the end of the road and yelled something at me and took off. I didn't hear what he said. He had his window down and he yelled something at me and left.
Okay. And how did that make you feel?
I was really scared. I was trying to get video, but I was fumbling because I was shaking so bad I couldn't get my camera on.
Okay. The next event you allege happened on July 18th of 23.
Yes.
And you were apparently walking your dog again. Can you tell us what happened on that particular date?
I get up and walk my dog every morning. And just he comes speeding down the road and swerves at me again in his Ford diesel, close enough to definitely feel threatened. It scared me. I have to pick my dog up usually when he drives by me.
Was he going the same direction you were walking, or was he meeting you?
No, he was meeting me.
And did he swerve toward you as he went by you?
Yes.
And how did that make you feel?
Very threatened. And he stares me down too. He looks right at me with like angry face.
Okay. Was there any question in your mind that it was Rusty who was driving on the 18th?
No,
Was there any question that it was Rusty who was driving on the 20th of July?
no.
The next event that you allege is June 27th. And again, you're on a morning walk. Can you tell us what happened on that occasion?
Sorry. I was on my way back and just again, swerving at me. I mean, I was almost home, same thing, walking my dog and coming at me, staring at me.
I'm going to object if she's reading notes. Obviously, she's got to testify from her memory. It appears as though she's reading notes. So if that's the case, we'd ask it to stop.
It's not notes. He's referring to her petition, Your Honor. That's all, just to put it in context. I will clarify that.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Leatherman, you're not reading from any notes that you have taken?
No,
Okay. So make sure you testify just from your memory, all right? And on the 27th, was he coming toward you or going the same direction that you were walking?
he was coming towards me.
And did he swerve toward you?
Yes.
How close did he come?
I don't know, close enough to feel threatened,
All right.
close enough to see his face.
Okay, and you ID'd him at that time? You saw his face?
Yes.
And how did that make you feel on that occasion on the 27th of June?
Threatened. It's scary. I don't know why he keeps doing this to me constantly,
Okay.
over and over and over.
On your petition, the next, I believe, is June 10th.
It was in the morning, Friday or Saturday morning. Anyways, he was home. I seen him go out to the red truck and then go back into the house, and they all were there. This was in the morning. I was outside working in the yard. I tried again to get it on my camera, but it stopped. They kept
What
beeping.
happened when you were working in your yard?
They kept beeping their Toyota red truck to lock it and unlock it. They've done it before.
And what happens when that happens?
It's just a very loud, like the neighborhood can hear it.
And has this happened before other than on June 10th?
Yes.
And how long did this go on?
Probably 15, 20 minutes, 10, 20 minutes, I'm guessing.
Okay. And how did that make you feel?
Felt like someone's watching me. I feel like someone watches me all the time, constantly.
Okay, the next event that you allege is on June 2 of 3. What happened on that particular day?
I had a security camera or security company come out because I was getting wired in cameras instead of just my Wi-Fi because I am afraid and I'm afraid. And so I want wired in cameras and be no question about anything. So they're recording all the time. And he went and stood in his driveway and stared at us. And then his son came out and started mowing the lawn, and my camera guy.
That's what the camera guy said. What did you observe in relation to his son mowing the lawn?
He came along the property line shooting the clippings as close as he could to the property line, except for where they want a crappy line, which he told me, between the lines. Anyways, came as close as he could to the property line, shooting all the clippings into my driveway.
Did you ever talk to the son on a subsequent occasion concerning this event?
The son?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. How did that event make you feel?
Threatened, embarrassed, him sitting there staring at me, felt like a stalker, like I'm being stalked.
The next event is May 24 of 23. What happened on that occasion?
That night I was in my house and my dog was going absolutely crazy. And so, like, he'd never went crazy before. He barks at cats and things, but so I decided to go outside. It was dark. I went out and turned the light on the garage, went back into the house. He started doing it again.
Doing what again?
The dog started barking again and going nuts in the window. There's a front window where you could see everything. So I got his leash back on, and because he wouldn't stop. So I went back out, and the garage is across the street. So I got halfway across the street, and Rusty starts yelling stuff at me.
What did Rusty yell at you? What did he say?
First it was, "Oh, great, family's so great," or, "You're so great." And then, just yelling, "You're a bitch." And he called me a cunt, and he said, "I can't wait to take your shit and see you in hell, bitch." And on and on and on.
How long did this take place?
Maybe 5 minutes or so. I turned around and started walking away. I called the police, and the state police came.
Okay, the state police came, and
While I was waiting, he went up into his building, turned his music on, opened all his windows, and played his music as loud as he could. And it was music like "Family Sucks" and "You're a Bitch" and "Just Can't Wait," and whatever songs he was playing. It wasn't just. And then when the cops got there, it got a little laser, but yeah.
How did that event make you feel?
Very threatened. Very threatened. I can't even walk out in my yard. I got to worry about my, why is my dog barking? Who's in my yard? And it's very dark out there.
Was there anything going on that would have caused him to be that derogatory to you?
Absolutely not. I didn't even know they were out there.
Good. The next event is and I guess we got those mixed around, but May 5, what happened on that occasion?
It was a Friday night. I know this because we were over there having dinner with my friend. He was cooking for us, and my son wanted to go to the store, and they were home. I seen him there. When we left a little bit later, my son was driving. As we were leaving on Lyman Drive, they were coming at us.
Okay, who was coming at you?
Rusty and Riley.
Okay, did you see Rusty in the car?
Yes, Riley was driving and Rusty was in the car.
And what happened in that regard?
There was a car in front of him and we started going while they swerved at us, and my son almost hit a mailbox.
Okay, you were in the car with your son, is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes, because he has to have someone in the car who's driver's training.
Good. And what time of day or night was this?
It was about 6, 7 o'clock, something like that, 6 to 8, something like that. It was evening.
Okay, and what vehicle were they in?
They were in the excursion.
Okay. And the next item is May 6th of 23. What happened on that occasion?
I was walking again, my dog in the morning, walked down, coming back just before Lyman Drive. I was on 6 Mile. They turned 6 Mile in his loop.
Again, you say they. Who is they?
Sorry, Rusty. I didn't see anybody else in the car.
Okay, did you see Rusty in the car?
Yes, he looked right at me.
And
He
what-
always does.
Okay, what vehicle was he in?
Blue Bronco.
And what happened?
He swerved at me and flipped me off and took off, just left.
Okay, so you observed him give you the finger?
Yeah, and you have to come, I was on the opposite side of the road too. He was on this way and I'm going this way. So he swerved coming at me
Okay.
into the other lane towards me.
All right, the next item that you have alleged is on April 30th of 2023. Were there words said at that occasion?
Yes.
And where was Rusty at when words were said for you?
He was on the easement.
And what did he say to you?
He said, "This is my property, bitch, and I can do whatever I want. And you're not to be on here. You don't know where, or there's no drain on here, you bitch." And just on and on. "I'm stupid. I don't know nothing. You better read your contract." On and on.
You on your property during all this time?
Yes.
And how did that make you feel?
Extremely stressed and just constant harassment, you know, things were fine. I don't know, understand why he's blocking me from the easement. Just very frustrated, intimidated, being called names constantly.
The next item is on April 27th. Again, what was the situation there?
Again, just walking my dog. I was almost home. He come around the corner, you know, basically leaving where our houses are at and seeing me and swerved at me. Same thing.
What vehicle was he in on this occasion?
Black Lexus.
Did you see him driving the car?
Yes, I did.
The next item that you allege is in September of 22.
Yes.
Did you get contacted by township officials?
Yes. And I thought it was about the amount of the tax bill. And she said, "Well, your brother called me again." And I was like, "What about?"
Who did you get contacted by?
Joyce Fundo got contacted by Rusty Whitwire.
And did you have to explain away to the township your tax situation?
Yes. Well, she knew what it was, but she wanted to come out and look at the property. We had already had it looked at and talked to whoever you have to talk to do that. But we had to take a couple hours out the next day to have her come out. She looked at it and yeah, she knew that's what we were doing. So
Okay.
just verified what we were doing. And that he said,
Okay, we'll get to that later. The next item is in late summer of 22. Did you have a circumstance where Rusty charged at you on your
Yes.
property?
yes, my lawn service that was out there mowing the lawn like is due. This time he came out and, yelled at the lawn service. So I came over there and he came out yelling at me, you're not supposed to be mowing the lawn service. And, you stupid bitch, this is my property. And I called the police and the state police came out.
Okay, and did it appear that Rusty had been drinking on that occasion?
Yes.
How can you tell that?
Just the way he was acting and usually just the way he's acting. He's more aggressive and usually just the way he's acting. I don't know how to explain it. He's just more aggressive and assertive, and he even says more belligerent stuff.
Okay. Has this harassment been going on for some period of time?
Yes.
And is that the purpose that you're asking, that you have a TPO against him to have him stop making contact with you and conversing with you? Yeah.
I want him to just leave me alone and stop harassing me. I feel stalked. I need him to leave me alone.
Okay.
I need this to be done. It's been going on for a long time, over and over and over, constantly. And I want it to be done. It needs to be over.
Okay. You don't have any reason that you need contact with him for anything? So-
Absolutely not.
No further questions this time, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Smith, any cross-examination?
We're not muted anymore. All right, yeah, Miss Leatherman, you make an allegation about something that would have happened on, let me see here, July 22nd, or sorry, July 23rd. So you, Miss Leatherman, you understand that you have an easement for the purposes of the drainage on Mr. Wickwire's property.
Yes, I gave him that property, but needed an easement because I did not know exactly where it was, but it covered all the drain. That's why the easement is on there.
All right, and you understand that he owns the property and you have access to it for that specific reason to maintain that to whatever extent is reasonably necessary. You understand that?
Your Honor, may I interject at this point? I think Your Honor ruled last hearing that Your Honor was not going to hear the complaints about the easement. So I stayed away from that on my direct. So I guess I would ask that the easement be subject of another day.
Okay, Mr. Smith, what's the basis of this line of questioning?
I was just going to touch on it, but if the court wants to avoid that, it's probably.
I'm not addressing the easement issue. This is for the TPO.
Great, that sounds good. Miss Leatherman, you indicated that you have security videos of your property. Is that right?
Yes, I have 8. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Are you aware that Mr. Wickwire does too?
Yes.
Okay, he's got a camera that shoots out the front of basically right by his front door towards the lake, which includes your property in its view. You're aware of that?
Yes.
Okay, you're also aware that he's got one by the lake that shoots up towards his house, so basically, so the lake would be behind it. Are you aware of that?
No.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm informing you of that at this point. Okay, and then you mentioned a couple of the things that I thought were noteworthy. First of all, the allegation that you make on June 10th about the beeping of the car, that isn't it true that that's a car that Riley, your nephew, drives?
Well, honestly, they all drive different vehicles.
Okay. Do you know who was pushing the button or what was causing the sound in the car?
What's your question? What? I'm sorry.
Do you know who was causing the beeping of the car? Do you know?
No, but Rusty had walked out to the vehicle and went into the house.
Okay. But so you don't know. It could have been Riley. It could have been Rusty's wife. It could have been one of the other kids. Isn't that true?
Sure. Yeah, it could have been.
Okay. And isn't it true that it could just be the car by itself in terms of either a sensitive alarm or a malfunctioning alarm? Isn't that true?
No, that is not true.
Okay, how do you know that it could not be the car malfunctioning or going off? How do you know that?
Because my husband is a master Toyota technician. That is a newer vehicle. It never has just gone off. And ever since then, it doesn't do it anymore. I don't believe that to be true.
Okay, I understand you don't know, you don't believe that, but you don't know what was going on in the circuitry of the vehicle at that point though, right?
No, but it stopped when they left.
Okay. You make an allegation, that, I think it was the June 27th one where you were out walking with your dog, and then you said that your brother, drove by you and it stopped and yelled at you, and you don't know what he was yelling. Is that true?
That is true.
Okay. You heard him testify that he was yelling at you to not go on his property. Is it possible that he was yelling at you to not go on his property?
I do not know.
Okay.
He yelled at me and sped off so fast, I don't even know what he said.
And on June 2nd of 2023, you make an allegation about Riley blowing stuff in your driveway when Riley was mowing.
Yep, while Rusty stood in his driveway staring at us.
Okay. But Rusty didn't do anything other than stare at you, according to you, right?
Okay, well, I felt very threatened by him standing there staring at me.
Okay.
It was on purpose. It was very intentional.
Okay. That he was staring at you. That was what was on purpose and intention.
Yes.
Okay. And on May 5th, 2023, you make an allegation, and you wrote these pleadings. In fact, you signed the bottom of every page, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you didn't write that Riley was the one driving on that allegation about what happened on May 5th, 2023, did you?
No, Rusty was in the vehicle.
Okay. But you wrote this reflecting that Rusty was driving, right?
No, that he was in the vehicle.
You wrote every word of this, right?
Rusty in his jacked up excursion, coming the opposite direction, swerved at me, at my vehicle, thinking it was me and it was my son.
You wrote
Rusty
this
was
in a
in
way,
that vehicle.
you wrote this that implies that Rusty was the driver. True?
No, I did not.
And you heard Riley testify
Rusty-
that Riley was the driver, right?
Yes, but Rusty
Okay,
was
and
in
then-
that vehicle staring at me.
Okay. I think you've addressed that satisfactorily. April 27th, 2023, you make an allegation about Rusty driving towards you with the black Lexus.
Yes,
All right. You're aware that there are security videos out the front of his house.
yep,
Are you,
I have video
you-
also.
are you aware that he was not driving the Lexus that day and there's video to prove
He
it?
was driving the Lexus.
At what time?
In the morning.
Approximately what time?
I don't know exactly. In the morning when he leaves for work,
Or what time do you go for your daily walk that you probably do? At
I
the
do
same time?
not have a set time. It's when I get up and get going. It could be from 6 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock in the morning.
So on that particular morning, could it have been right before, right around 7 o'clock? Or I'm sorry.
I don't know.
What time?
I don't know the specific time. I know it was in the morning and he stared right at me.
About
He looked right at
7:41.
me.
Could it have been right around 7:40 a.m. that morning?
I do not know exactly. It was in the morning. I have video. I can look it up, but he
Okay.
looks right at me. He stares me down every single time he does that.
All right, and I guess in order to know that, you must be staring right at him then too, right?
A car coming at me? Yeah, I'm looking. Yes, I have to watch out for myself.
Okay. And how long have you and your brother had bad blood such that you've been concerned with the way he's been treating you?
For at least 10 years.
Okay. When did you move into your house right next door to his?
Oh, over a year ago, year and a half ago, whatever.
Okay. And did your brother have did keep like a pile of tires near your property line?
Yes, he does.
Okay. What does that is that a problem for you that he's keeping a pile of tires right by your property line?
Well, it's a problem for our whole neighborhood.
So is that a yes?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
it's garbage. It's garbage, and there's garbage there, and yes.
Okay. Did you take one of those tires on September 11th?
I absolutely did not.
Okay. Isn't it
It
true
was
that
it was on my property. It laid there for a week, so I removed it.
okay, so that there is video evidence of you removing the tire, you admit that that's you.
Yes, I have video myself.
Okay. And what did you do with that tire?
Your Honor, I think it's beyond the petition and we're going into some other area. So if there are other events that we can go into, but I'm not sure that we are allowed to under the petition.
Mr. Smith, what's your reply?
Your Honor, I just assumed she answered this last question and I will drop it. But I think it's fair to say what she did with it.
Well, how is it germane to a PPO action?
Your Honor, if this is a mutual situation, or if she's the instigator, I think it's absolutely relevant to this court making decision whether or not she has.
But how is it relevant as to what she did with it to the issue?
Well, if the answer is she returned it to his property, it's one thing. If she took it and stole it, it's another. If she dumped it in the garbage, I think if
the court may be relevant if she returned it to the property. If she didn't, I don't see how that's relevant. So,
okay, I'll
did
let
you
you
ask that question?
Have you returned that tire yet, Miss Leatherman?
No, we do not talk. Supposedly, if I would have brought it back to his property, he would have charged me with trespassing. He could get me arrested for a long time, and I have done absolutely nothing wrong. He could
All
have.
right, Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Okay. Any redirect, Mr. Schaefer?
Just a couple of things. You were asked specifically about some events. On the malfunctioning car, allegedly, when the beeper went off, you saw Rusty at the car just prior to the car going. I didn't call your testimony correctly. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And on the 27th of June, you didn't hear what was said, but Rusty did yell at you from the car. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you have a number of times indicated that Rusty would stand there and stare you down while you were on your property. Is that correct?
Yes.
And on 4/27/23, you looked at Rusty and observed him in the Lexus. Is that correct?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Smith, any recross?
You're muted, Mr.
No recalls.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Schaefer, next witness.
I believe you should have on your waiting room a Joyce Fondle.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask for an offer of proof before this witness is testified. I don't know that what she would say is admissible.
Okay. Mr. Schaefer, what's your response?
Well, she's in the petition as the allegation that Rusty had called and made complaint to the township about my client, and that's part of the harassment that we are trying to verify.
And she would testify that he is the source of a complaint?
Yes.
Okay. All
And
right.
are you employed?
Yes.
That's
Where are you
fine.
employed?
Yeah.
Leroy Township?
And what is your position there?
Capacity as assessor.
And have you received complaint from Rusty Wyrick in relation to property owned by Shan Leatherman?
Yes.
And on how many different occasions have you received complaint from Rusty Wyrick as to that property?
Two that I can remember.
Could you tell us when they were, please?
Both of them were last year. The most recent one was last fall, about a year ago.
And what was the complaint?
The complaint was regarding property located road, which is my understanding that is Ben Leatherman's home next to this home, which Rusty alleged that someone was renting that home and therefore they didn't qualify for the 100% principal residence exemption.
And the prior complaint from Rusty, was it similar to that?
Similar to that, plus there was also an allegation that Shan did not live on Lyman Drive and that she was renting her home out.
Okay. And as a result of this complaint from Rusty Wyrick, did you do investigation?
Yes, I set an appointment with Shan to go out and view the second home located on the property on Paradise Road, and found that it was not livable and had not been rented out.
Did you find the allegations from Rusty Wyrick to be credible, or were you able to verify them?
On that particular one, I was able to verify that no one was living in the home. As far as the other complaint regarding living on, I could not find any evidence to show that she wasn't living on Lyman Drive. And as far as renting the home out, I did an investigation on that and could not say that that was a use that was a consistent use, and therefore could not take away the principal residence exemption on that property.
And as a result of the investigation, how much of Shan Leatherman's time did you have to spend to make those verifications?
It was approximately 45 minutes in total, I believe.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Smith, any cross?
Ms. Fundel, isn't it true that you texted Mr. Wickwire with the results of your investigation?
That I did what? I'm sorry.
That you texted Mr. Wickwire with the results of your investigation?
I do not believe that I texted him.
Is your number 269-986?
It is.
Okay. And that you had said that it was that as a result of his complaints, it was on your list for denial of 2022 and 2023. What did you mean by that?
That was prior to investigation. That was most likely after his first call to me.
Okay, so that was basically your status of that, your list, meaning your investigation list then?
Well, it would be a list that I would have to check out. Yes, so investigation.
Okay, so you weren't reflecting your decision, you were reflecting your investigation.
That's correct.
Okay, and all you can do is check out the information that you're given. Is that true?
That's true.
And presumably you get it right most of the time, but you can only go by what the evidence shows.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Mhm.
Okay, Mr. Schaefer, any redirect?
Thank you, Mrs. Fundel, for coming.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you. You're excused.
Thanks.
Your Honor, I have no other witnesses to call.
Okay. Mr. Smith, any rebuttal witnesses?
You got it on Airbnb.
Yeah, no rebuttal witnesses,
Okay,
just argument.
thank you. Mr. Smith, you can do your closing argument then.
Your Honor, just to reiterate here, and I know that different judges do it different ways, and I respect the court's decision to do it this way, but it is Ms. Leatherman's burden to prove. I'm happy to go first, but it is her legal burden to prove
Yeah,
that.
well, I'll have Mr. Schaefer. I did allow him to have proofs first, so we'll have Mr. Schaefer to present first.
Okay, thank you.
Very good, Your Honor. Your Honor, this request for a PPO is a legitimate request, and there is sufficient overwhelming evidence that Rusty Whitwire is constantly harassing her. If you take the things that are unrefuted and what he has admitted, he admitted that he has used foul language to her on numerous occasions. That was verified by his wife. And we have some dangerous situations that are occurring because Mr. Whitwire is apparently bold enough that he is willing to drive by her and come close to my client. She is walking. That is unacceptable. The fact that he would drive by and flip her off is detestable and basis for a PPO. The fact that he will call her a bitch, a cunt, that she's a bitch, see you bitch in hell across property lines when she's on her property is offensive and should be he should be restrained through a PPO. This has been ongoing for a long time, and if there's not a PPO, then it's just going to escalate. So we are asking that the PPO be granted to have no contact from Rusty to his sister Shan, and I think there's more than sufficient evidence that will support that request. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Your Honor. The petitioner makes a lot of allegations, and 9 out of 10 allegations are much ado about nothing. You heard her say several times today, he just stared at me. He looked at me. Well, okay, you wouldn't know he looked at you if you weren't looking at him as well. He's been, we've had a terrible relationship for 10 years, yet she chooses to move right next door to him. I don't want anything to do with him, yet she takes a tire that she knows is his and hasn't given it back to him yet. She blames him for leaves that were blown by his son. She writes an allegation that absolutely implies that he was driving and doesn't clarify that he wasn't driving until she hears the sworn testimony of the person who was driving. This is much ado about nothing. Mr. Whitwire testified and I'm sure these all run together with the court, and they're all part and parcel of the same thing, so forgive me the jumping around. She says, well, he drove his car and he stopped and yelled at me. Well, he testified, I saw her heading for my property. I didn't want her on my property, so I yelled at her, don't go on my property. What, you can't do that? That she says that in the situation when he and his wife turned up the loud music, they turned up the loud music just to spite me. And they started yelling at me. But she also admits that she was on her way to his property, was halfway across the street when he basically started or continued the verbal argument. So the idea that she's peacefully sitting at home and he just attacks her isn't the case at all. My client has responded, and he admits that he's responded loudly at times. His wife said the same thing, but these are all he's not going after her. These are all in parts responses to her actions here. And the idea that she's just sitting at home or doing nothing, or just walking her dog, doing nothing, and he just goes after her for no reason. It just are gross exaggerations. And again, she intentionally misled the court by not making the allegation. The court can refer to that, and there's absolutely nothing about that that would lead the court to perceive anything other than she was alleging that he was driving. And of course, when she realizes that that's not going to fly because we heard testimony, number one, that he wasn't around, and number two, that he wasn't driving, then she testified. So this is a difficult situation to have somebody like my client and his wife who had neighbors move in who they've had long problems with and will probably continue to have long problems with. I think Mr. Schaefer and I agree about that point. Miss Leatherman knew that there were bound to be problems here when she would continue to go on the property, when she would argue about this, when she would head towards his property or start verbal arguments, whether it was about the easement or otherwise. And to allow this court to be weaponized by somebody who hates my client like she does is, I think, unfair and unwarranted. But I'm not going to tell the court that this isn't a problem because these two don't like each other, but to give one the power of incarcerating the other based on in many ways, in almost every way, in terms of the allegations here, him responding to her, I think, is unfair and unwarranted. Again, I don't know why Miss Leatherman chose to move right next door to somebody who she has such disagreements with. But the idea that Miss Leatherman is innocent and not a willing participant in at least verbal arguments is, I think, a stretch too far. And again, this court, especially, whether it be family court or custody cases or these types of cases or whatever, he's staring at me. He's looking at me, or what, Your Honor, this is such small potatoes here. And I, we'll see whether she gets charged with a stolen tire or not. But I would suggest that again, this situation is, I don't know. These two are never going to be sitting together at Thanksgiving. But to give her the power to put him in jail, based on things she alleges that he did when she's out walking her dog, where there is no documentation. And considering what she already feels about him is again unfair and unwarranted, and we would ask that you deny her petition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Schaefer, anything else?
Yeah, just a response. Some of the argument I take exception to when it's called small potatoes, when you are swerving at somebody with a diesel truck, is not small potatoes. Response to what she's doing, I've heard nothing of what she has done. But the fact that he admits that he yells at her, that he flips her off, that he calls her a bitch, a cunt, on her own property, that's out of bounds. And if we don't have any intercession by the court at this point in time, it's going to get worse. And he will not go to jail if he obeys the order. This is a prime reason for a PPO, and I would respectfully ask the court to grant it.
Okay, thank you. Well, in this particular matter, the court does note that, as the attorneys know as well, that the court can give personal protective orders pursuant to Michigan compiled law 600.2950 at SEC, and as provided for under Michigan Court Rule 2.700 at SEC. In this matter, the court would note that the court cannot make mutual PPOs. However, the court can make correlative separate orders as permitted upon separate petitions and separate findings in this particular matter. I note there's not been a separate filing, so the court can't do that in this particular case. Although throughout the proceedings, the court had thought that that might be appropriate action to keep each of the parties away from the other ones. But I'm constrained by the fact that there is not any other petition. In these particular cases, credibility is always a consideration in every case, and oftentimes the parties allege the other party or their witnesses were not truthful or lying. The court has found out, however, that inconsistencies in testimony do not always mean that an individual has lied. Conflicting testimony may be the result of a witness background, perception, bias, understanding, misunderstanding, or simply by mistake. When inconsistencies occur, the court will attempt to determine if they can be reconciled by other testimony and evidence. There was obviously conflicting testimony in this matter, and obviously that's very typical, and the court sees that. But I would state in this matter that I did note that the respondent's son Riley testified, as did his wife, and the court found them to be very credible in this particular matter. I note that Riley had testified that in this particular matter that on June 15, 2023, that again, there was some issues with his truck that he said I may have set it off accidentally. I didn't intend to set it off, and that it would continue until it was unlocked. So just because the respondent may have been by the vehicle prior to that time doesn't mean that he was setting off the alarm. And the petitioner states that, well, he must have, And, but there's no evidence that he did do that. Court, notes that Riley also testified that on June 2nd, 2023, that he was mowing the lawn. He said that the grass clippings did go onto the petitioner's driveway, but he said he didn't try to do it, nor did the respondent ask him to do it. He said, all I could think of is that the wind would have done it. He did state that on another occasion on 5/5/23, that he was driving home from school in the Ford Excursion, that he said, I moved over, and they stated that his dad was not in the vehicle. He says on June 6, 2023, that his dad, mother, himself, and his girlfriend were in the car, that in fact, he did not swerve, he didn't flip off, meaning petition or respondent, he didn't swerve, he didn't flip off the petitioner in this particular matter. The court will note, however, that again, based upon Miss Wickwire's testimony, that there had been multiple verbal confrontations, and as she characterizes it, quite a few. She testified too on the 10th that Riley was having some issues with his truck when he'd get in and out and lock the truck. She testified that on 5/24/23, that when it headed out of the garage, that the petitioner yelled at them, presumably it's responded in her, that she testified that respondent always has had a foul mouth and would always say vulgar things. And again, at that time, it does appear that based upon all the witnesses, that that's pretty consistent. Even the respondent acknowledges that he had called the petitioner names, etc. Unfortunately, I guess I'll state in this matter that as I'm listening to this, I'm harking back to when my kids were 5 and 10 years old, respectively, and they would say, he's looking at me. No, I'm not. Oh, he touched me. No, I didn't. He said this. I didn't say that. And unfortunately, I guess it's only brings that to mind because the fact that both of the parties here are siblings, and I do definitely believe that there's some of that involved in this particular matter. Miss Wickwire testified that on the May 25th, 2023 date, that it was the petitioner that flipped them off, that the respondent did not swerve and did not flip her off. He did acknowledge, as did his wife, that he did yell at the lawn service that was at her home on that particular time, on that particular date. And Miss Wickwire does state that petitioner had yelled derogatory names at respondent as well. There was a lot of things, like in today's testimony when she was walking her dog, that she says that the respondent yelled at her, that she didn't know what he said. So even though she claims to have been intimidated or scared, it's hard to be intimidated or scared when you don't hear what somebody has said in this particular matter. She stated as well, he stares me down. Well, the point is that she's staring at him as well, and that could, again, constitute some of the problems in this particular matter. She did state that she had felt after the June 10th, 2023 date, she said she feels like someone's always watching her. Well, maybe she does. Maybe somebody is watching her. Maybe she isn't. Or maybe, again, it goes back to the issue of, again, siblings and, again, those particular issues. The court can grant a personal protective order if the court determines there is reasonable cause to believe that an individual has committed or may commit any of the acts listed in Michigan Compiled Laws 600.2950 parens 1 parens A through K. And those particular acts are entering upon premises. There's been testimony about, obviously, the grass clippings on the premises. There has not been any testimony about the respondent entering upon her premises other than that. So the court will find that that's not met. B, assaulting, attacking, beating, molesting, or wounding an individual. There's been no testimony about that. Next, threatening to kill or physically injure an individual. There's no testimony of any of those particular threats. The next one's not applicable about removing a child. Next is purchasing or possessing a firearm. There's no testimony about that. The next one is interfering with the petitioner's removal of their children or property from the property of the respondent. No testimony or evidence about that. Next, interfering or impairing a petition person's employment or education. No evidence on that particular point. Next is having access to information concerning a minor child. Both parties is not applicable in this matter. Next, engaging in stalking or aggravated stalking as set forth in MCL 750.411H and 750.411I, and no testimony about that, other than if you want to call the staring in this particular matter. Next is, again, causing mental distress or exerting control over petitioner by, again, actions with an animal. There's no such testimony about that. The last is sub K, which is other act or conduct that imposes or interferes with personal liberty or causes reasonable apprehension of violence. That is the only one the court can see in this particular matter that would be applicable in this particular case. Again, see that there have been denials, but the court does note that, again, there was testimony by the petitioner about this and putting her, I guess you'd say, in reasonable apprehension of other conduct, that it interferes with her personal liberty. And although I find that that's somewhat attenuated in this particular matter, the court does see that there is evidence which would demonstrate that that could be present in this particular matter. And as the court notes, that the court can enjoin or restrain conduct if there's reasonable cause to believe that the individual committed or may commit any of the acts. So it doesn't mean that they just commit, it means that they may commit. And I think that there could be, and there has been demonstrated evidence of that in this particular matter. So the court is going to deny the motion to terminate the personal protective order in this particular case. And unfortunately, as I'm looking in this matter, unfortunately, I don't believe that this is going to be the end of what we hear in this particular matter, but I would state to the petitioner in this case that the personal protective order is there as a shield to protect her. It's not there as a sword to, in fact, yield against the respondent to, again, take an offensive action against him. So the court would state that if, in fact, the matter comes back before me, the court is going to, again, be very cautious in this matter, as if we have to go any further in this matter. But hopefully with the PPO remaining in place, that parties will, I guess, hopefully simmer down in this particular matter, and each of them would, in fact, as each of them has stated, they just want to be left alone, and hopefully each of them will be left alone in this particular case. And unfortunately, that may not occur, but again, the court can always hope for that. So that will be the order of the court, and I'll ask Mr. Schaefer that you would prepare an order denying the motion to terminate in this. Well, I should have, I'm sorry, I will have an order in this matter, Mr. Schaefer, that
Okay, very good. Thank
we
you.
could utilize, so you don't need to do an order.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Court will conclude this matter at 3:34 p.m. You're free to go. Have a good day. Yes.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
Would Your Honor consider limiting the term that's in effect? It's to go from July till July. Would the court consider limiting the term as to perhaps 6 months?
Quite frankly, with these people, I don't think I should limit the term for anything in this particular matter, so I'm not going to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Smith?